City Council meeting. It is 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call when you get a chance, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Let the record reflect that all council members are present.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any conflict of interest declarations from anyone? No. Seeing none, any changes or deletions to the agenda, David?
No changes, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move into public comments. Any person wishing to speak on any item not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a public comment? If so, please come forward. State your name for the record.
My name is Dan Wilson. Thank you for all that you do. I can't begin to list all the accomplishments this council has made over the last 8 years that I've been here in Cloverdale. I'm here today to ask you to repeal Cloverdale Municipal Code 1811-060 regarding recreational vehicle parking and suspend any pending enforcement actions while you deliberate the matter. I've had my RV parked on my property on Elbridge Avenue in Cloverdale for the last 4 years. With no issue. In February, the city issued me a preliminary notice of violation. Code enforcement informed me that this section of the code is complaint-driven, which explains why you see many other boats, RVs, off-road vehicles, and other recreational vehicles the city of Cloverdale defines, and parked complacently everywhere in town, even in locations where the Cloverdale Municipal Code prohibits RVs, and why my neighbors and I are being singled out tonight. As a practical matter, you need to know that the Cloverdale Municipal Code is a de facto prohibition on having recreational vehicles on residential property in Cloverdale at any time. Repealing the reference ordinance is the best approach for this town because, one, the statement of reasons in the ordinance do not account for how people use recreational vehicles following the tragic wildfires. Many people who were evacuated from their homes have horror stories about hotels in the surrounding 100-mile radius being completely booked and had to travel to extreme distances. Many people use their RVs to avoid this problem. The ordinance delays how I execute my evacuation plan and puts my family at more risk than my current plan. Two, the statement of reasons are questionably accurate at best, particularly 1 and 3. A quick research of Ron Pavelka's webpage, realtor in town, cites that RV parking are a selling point for his homes. Therefore, RV parking can actually increase resale value, which actually adds value to comparable neighbors. These selling points puts Cloverdale's home buyers in direct conflict with the Cloverdale Municipal Code because no matter how they park their trailer, Cloverdale enforcement enforces the municipal code by concluding the trailer is a quote-unquote public nuisance, even though the owner is in compliant with the spirit of the law. Cloverdale's code enforcement contractor has no interest in the spirit of the law, despite their claim to work with me. Third, the ordinance, when viewed with Cloverdale Municipal Code regulating public parking on a public street, it's clear there's a massive loophole. Code enforcement said that I could legally park my trailer in front of the complainant's house so long as I move at an arbitrary distance every 72 hours. While this loophole being promoted by your code enforcement contractor is a cause of concern, the greater concern for this council is the message that you're sending to your constituents. which is that you're more interested in regulating what I can do on my private property than what I can do on your public streets. Fourth, if you can't equitably enforce the ordinance, then don't have one. A good government enforces law equitably. I've been involved in state and federal regulation for the last 20 years, and I can tell you that, sorry, I lost where I was. I can tell you enforcement actions should be assisted by complaints, not driven by only complaints. I understand there are limited resources, but your complaint-driven enforcement is creating an inequity among our town's neighborhoods and allows neighbors to make disingenuous complaints that manifest from issues that have nothing to do with recreational vehicles. 5,
Mr. Wilson, we're about 2 minutes over already, so I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, please.
okay, I will.
Thank you.
Last point. None of our neighboring communities, Windsor, Hillsburg, have this ordinance. Their property values seem to be fine, and we don't see their neighborhoods overtaken by the underlying fear that this ordinance is trying to address. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who wants to go next?
Good evening, Daniel Frankston. I just want to start out by saying when I moved here, I was really impressed at the many powerful women that help run Cloverdale. And I'm really glad to see that Nina's amongst us tonight, because she was definitely one of those people that impressed me when I first moved here. So I'm glad to see she's back, and I'm glad to see she'll be taking her reins beginning in the next month. I'm here to talk about the mobile home rent ordinance. Mobile home is the final frontier on affordable housing. I know their city attorney is diligently putting together an ordinance that will be taken up perhaps at the next meeting, perhaps at the one after. I really liked that that this city council backtracked to take it back to the subcommittee to be heard by all the parties. I thought that's really good. I think it's important whenever there are changes that everyone that's involved and affected have their say in the matter. When this matter first came up in the subcommittee, Mayor Lands, I remember you were looking through the various different cities that have mobile home rent control, Petaluma, Santa Rosa, and noting that Cloverdale, relative to all of those, is on the lower end as far as the incomes spectrum, and you had indicated at that time that you thought our mobile home rent ordinance should reflect that. And thereafter, a couple of more meetings, the last meeting, the agreement was that it would be 3% increase, annual increase, or 70% of CPI, and that's in keeping with all the others. It's actually on the lower side of the other jurisdictions, and I thought that was great. And towards the end of the meeting, Councilman Walter suggested that rather that it be the lesser of the two, that it be the greater of the two. And I want you to reflect on that. I will be presenting something whenever this comes up with regards to the numbers, but I just did a rough for the last 10 years. And ultimately, if you do the greater as opposed to the lesser, you end up with more than double the rent increase. And so you would effectively be making the mobile home rent ordinance the highest or the least protective of the entire area. So I hope you would take that into consideration. I have other things to speak of with regards to that, but I'm going to hold that off until then. In the meantime, I just really think you should look over the lesser of the two versus the greater of the two, because it literally more than doubles what the rent increases would have been for the last 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. If you get that information prior to the meeting, if you could email it to me, it'd be great to see it so that we can prepare a little bit more.
Absolutely. As soon as I know when the hearing will be, I'll go ahead and submit it ahead of time along with other comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to make a public comment in the audience? Nope. Okay. Oh, are you? Okay.
I just wanted to address what Dan addressed earlier, and he covered all the bases, but I feel really strongly that we get rid of I had the code, but the code ordinance for the parking of the recreational vehicles in town. It really would affect our family, just having to pay for storage somewhere else and keeping it, and I completely understand if it was something that was run down or, you know, a total eyesore and, you know, to the neighbors in the neighborhood. But when, you know, you want to encourage young families and even retired people with motorhomes and travel, and it's just with all the costs of, you know, the cost increase of everything that's going on right now to pay for an additional place to store these vehicles, it would affect both of us and all of us, and it just doesn't seem fair that just because we have a disgruntled neighbor that has turned us in, that we have to abide by this when a neighbor 5 houses down doesn't. So I just am supporting everything that his comments from earlier. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to make a public comment?
Hi, I just wanted to, as a neighbor of the 2 individuals in my neighborhood that have presented kind of their case for being administered with some violations for their RV vehicles. And I just wanted to state, as a neighbor next door to both of them, that I have no problem with their recreation vehicles being parked in their own driveways on their own property. And I know other vehicles all over the city where people are not complaining. Other people and residents are parking their vehicles in their driveways or on their property. And I feel the ordinance should be removed from the city of Cloverdale. I would be the most objective, being the neighbor right next door to Dan, who has his big RV, and it doesn't bother me at all because I feel that people that own properties and have big families, it's a very good thing that they're using their recreation vehicles to enhance their family life and just give a better family situation in raising their children. And we could be complaining about dogs barking in the neighborhood, but we own our properties, and many people, residents, have dogs barking, and it shouldn't bother anybody unless it's something agitated constantly on a daily basis. So I just wanted to state, being the neighbor that's right next to both of these people that have spoken today, that it doesn't bother me at all. And I don't think it's consistent if other people that are residents of the city of Cloverdale have recreation vehicles and boats parked in their driveways and on their property, and they're not being certificated or issued violation certificates. So anyway, I just wanted to state that. The other thing I wanted to bring up is people that are having business out of their on a residential street. And that's what bothers me the most. I have a neighbor across the street who's renting a property and running a business. And he's very neat and meticulous, but there are between 2 and 3 big trucks, trailers, utility trailers in front of their home, constantly moving them. And I don't think that's right. And I don't think you should, as a resident, be advertising your business on your property if you're renting or whether you own it. There should be some ordinance with regard to that. So I'm pointing that out as a resident because that really affects me. And my car was hit and someone backed up into it and it had to have come from that driveway, and I can't make any proof or claim to it, but it's going to be a large expense for me to repair it. Anyway, that's what I'd like to state. And
Thank you very much for your time. If you don't mind, could you provide our clerk with your name? Could you provide him with your name, please? Thank you.
DENYSE, Bar, B-A-R.
Is there anyone else in the public that'd like to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll move forward. No communications. Our student liaison is not here tonight. She is at a track meet. So we'll move right into proclamations. The first one is E1, American Red Cross Month. Vice Mayor, would you like to read the proclamation?
Absolutely. And this is to, we have Andy, I believe Andy Whitholm and Betsy Whitholm as the recipients. Thank you for coming tonight. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale proclaiming March 2024 American Red Cross Month. Whereas in times of crisis, people in the City of Cloverdale come together to take care for one another. This humanitarian spirit is part of the foundation of our community and is exemplified by American Red Cross volunteers and donors. And whereas in 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, turning her steadfast dedication for helping others into a bold mission of preventing and alleviating people's suffering. And whereas today, more than 140 years later, we honor the kindness and generosity of Red Cross volunteers here in Cloverdale who continue to carry out Clara's life-saving legacy. They join the millions of people across the United States who volunteer, give blood, donate financially, or learn vital life-preserving skills through the Red Cross. And whereas in Cloverdale, the contributions of the local Red Cross volunteers give hope to the most vulnerable in their darkest hours, whether it's providing emergency shelter, food, and comfort for families devastated by local disasters like home fires, donating essential blood for accident and burn victims, heart surgery, and organ transplant patients, and those receiving treatments for leukemia, cancer, or sickle cell disease, supporting service members and veterans along with their families and caregivers through the unique challenges of military life, helping to save the lives of others with first aid, CPR, and other skills, or delivering international humanitarian aid and reconnecting loved ones separated by global crises. And whereas their support, volunteerism, and generous donations are critical to our community's resilience, we hereby recognize this month of March in honor of all those who fulfill Clara Barton's noble words. You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it, and ask everyone to join in this commitment. And whereas the work performed by the American Red Cross to prevent and alleviate human suffering is vital to strengthening our community's resilience, during American Red Cross Month in March, we celebrate the humanitarian spirit of Cloverdale and reaffirm our commitment to help ensure no one faces a crisis alone. And whereas caring for one another is at the heart of our community and exemplified by the people of the City of Cloverdale, whose simple acts of kindness through the Red Cross provide help and hope in people's most difficult moments, thereby continuing the life-saving legacy of Clara Barton, who founded the organization more than 140 years ago to prevent and alleviate human suffering. And whereas the City Council of the City of Cloverdale dedicates this month of March to all those who lead with their hearts to serve people in need and continue to advance the noble legacy of American Red Cross founder Clara Barton, who lived by her words, you must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed that Todd Lance, Mayor of City of Cloverdale, does hereby proclaim March 2024 as Red Cross Month in Cloverdale and encourages all citizens of Cloverdale to reach out and support its humanitarian mission. Dated March 13th, 2024, Todd Lance, Mayor.
Thank you.
Nice to be with you again. Thank you for again declaring March to be Red Cross Month. We appreciate your letting the citizens know through your proclamation of the work that Red Cross does in the county. A lot of people know that Red Cross collects blood. A lot of people know that Red Cross responds to disasters around the country, and Betsy will talk about that a little bit later because she's on the National Incident Command Team that responds to disasters all across the United States. I work as an all-purpose volunteer out of our Santa Rosa office. We have lots of blue sky activities, which are when there's not a disaster. The main ones were mentioned in the proclamation: blood collection. We have blood collection at our Red Cross office in Santa Rosa quite regularly. If any of you are passing by on your way to and from work, there's certainly opportunities to give blood. Financial donations are fabulous. Also, volunteering is much needed. We have 150 volunteers between Napa and Sonoma counties, which is what we represent, and we have one paid staff. So Red Cross work is done by volunteers, and we appreciate all the help that we can get. I do know that one of the board members last year was trying to help me get a blood drive up here.
Yes, Andy.
And we kind of fell through the cracks on that one, but if we want to start it again, we can pick it up where we left it off last year. Again, thank you so much for your proclamation, and let Betsy talk a little bit.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you all. I want to talk a little bit about the collaboration, and sit you up over the monitor, the collaboration that we do with our local communities, and how Red Cross, particularly in the area of disasters. We recently had a great shelter simulation over at the Cloverdale Fairgrounds with the CERT team here, getting prepared so that if and when we get that fire or disaster, we already know we're speaking the same languages and we can walk side by side. You are all impacted by climate change, as is Red Cross Response. It used to be that we'd have a disaster here, a disaster there, and we'd have time to reconstitute. But in this environment, we are having continuous response. So I want to assure you, as a colleague with you all in supporting the citizens of Cloverdale, we are looking at processes. We are looking at how we respond to disasters. It's not going to be any less. It's just going to be smarter, and it's going to be with the mindset and the plan to be able to do so on a continuing basis. So the hurricanes on the East Coast that are going on more continuing are not going to rob for what we're doing here. So thank you. It's an honor to be a part of it.
Thank you both. Is there anyone that'd like to say anything?
Appreciate it.
Andy, thank you very much. And that blood drive, it did kind of lose steam last year, and I did not know there was a border for where they would come up to do a blood drive. That's, I think, where we lost momentum right there.
I think one of the problems, and I have a hard time understanding this, but apparently Cloverdale is outside of our main blood drive area. But if we were able to get enough people to sign up in advance that they were interested in giving blood, then I can get them to come up. And I can't remember those numbers, but we can look at it again.
Okay. Yeah, if you could, we'll stay in contact. I'd like to either get that going or maybe get some people down to Santa Rosa and make that happen.
Again, we want to thank Jeff Peters, who some of you undoubtedly know, who's the head of your community emergency response team. He and several of the other volunteers participated in a training at Windsor High School, and then Jeff wasn't able to come, but several CERT volunteers were at the disaster simulation we did at the fairgrounds. And it was a great event, and we thank you all.
Would you guys mind waiting just a couple minutes? We're going to come down and take a picture after we finish our other proclamation. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next one is proclamation for Women's History Month. Read this one? I will. Here to accept the proclamation tonight, we have Commissioner Gina Fortino-Dixon, and we also have our very own Marta Cruz. Proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale proclaiming March 2024 Women's History Month. Whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of Cloverdale in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women have played a critical role in shaping the economic, cultural, and social fabric of our society through their participation in the labor force, working both inside and outside the home, in leadership positions, and through creative inspiration. Whereas National Women's History Month provides an opportunity for schools and communities to increase the knowledge held by our children and our community of women's roles in history and their contributions to the development of this nation. And whereas the story of American women is a story of women of all ages, races, and cultural backgrounds who led campaigns for equality and civil rights, advanced professional and educational opportunities, founded entirely new enterprises, and contributed significantly to the arts, sciences, and humanistic causes. And whereas women from every background have long realized that an uneven playing field will never bring equality or justice, and as members of families, civic and community groups, businesses, and legislative bodies, women are in the forefront of re-evaluating the status quo. Whereas the 2024 theme for National Women's History Month is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, which directly recognizes the women throughout the country who understand that, for a positive future, we need to eliminate bias and discrimination entirely for our lives and institutions. And whereas National Women's History Month is both a call to acknowledge the outstanding women we know by name and to pay homage to the nameless women who shared our collective past. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Todd Lands, the mayor of the city of Cloverdale, in recognition of the significant role played by women whose courage and vision inspire hope and possibility for today's women to make tomorrow's history, does hereby proclaim March 2024 as National Women's History Month in Cloverdale, dated March 13th, 2024, so ordered myself. Thank you.
Evening, Council. I am here to introduce the current chair, Gina Fortino Dixon, and Leslie Graves. Gina is the chair of the Commission on Status of Women, and Leslie is the organizer of the Women's March in Santa Rosa, as well as a recipient of the Commission of Women's Spirit Award. So now, Gina?
Thank you, Marta. Thank you both for being here, and thank you for all these wonderfully strong women in the room stepping forward and having your voices heard. I'd like to thank you, Chair. Oh, that was from the Board of Supervisors yesterday. Thank you, Mayor and council members, staff, for acknowledging women's history with us. I am the chair of the Commission on the Status of Women. Whenever I introduce myself as such, inevitably someone asks me, why do we need a Commission on the Status of Women still? We've achieved equality. Women have rights. Why not a commission for all people? We already have the Commission for Human Rights. Why don't you join with them? We've come a long way since women were traded into marriage for a dowry. Women can vote. Women can get bank accounts and credit cards by themselves now. Women are CEOs and not just secretaries. They're elected officials. And women can choose, mostly. Women have achieved equality, haven't they? What more is needed? Well, I'd like to answer that question with an example to demonstrate. How my daughter chooses a parking spot versus how my son chooses a parking spot. My daughter drives into the parking spot of where she wants to go. She circles around and looks for the spot that's the closest to the door. She looks to make sure that there's lighting the whole way to the door from her car. She's looking to see if there are any shrubs or walls or other things that are going to visually obstruct her from seeing where she's going, or people from seeing her. What vehicles are near hers? Are there people in them? Are there people lingering around? What are they doing? Before she opens that door, she's mapped out her route from the car to the door. She's got her keys in her hand before she clicks that unlock. And she's already assessed whether there's anything in her vicinity that she can use as a tool to protect herself if she has to. Then she heads for the door. How my son chooses a parking spot. He circles around the lot, goes as far to the back as he can, looking for a spot where there's 3 or 4 empty spots next to each other so that he can back his car in and there won't be any cars near him to open their doors and ding his paint job. That's it. And he goes in. See, the experience of the world is not the same for men and women. In even the most simple aspect of our lives, women face unseen barriers and obstacles. These are just some of the barriers faced on the way to the door. That's not to count the barriers that women face just to get in the room, to sit at the table, or to be in the game. And until that playing field is level on all fronts, we cannot stop advocating. And I thank you for publicly proclaiming that the city of Cloverdale will fight for women's equity right along with us.
Thank you.
Trans women are women, even in Cloverdale, all throughout Sonoma County. Thank you.
You mind taking a picture with us real quick? We'll do both groups and then we'll, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Right. Moving forward into F, presentations. F1, Cloverdale Chamber of Commerce presentation on accomplishments.
Mayor, if I can, I'd just like to take this opportunity to introduce the team this evening. And when I mean team, I really mean team. We're fortunate tonight to be joined by the Chamber Director, Nina Hanchett, her very apt Assistant Director, Savannah Hemphill, as well as the newest member of their team, Bree Bohannon. But I also want to welcome up the Chamber Board of Directors. I hope you guys come on down. You want to talk about a powerful group of women? Well, here we go.
Here it is.
Before we kickstart the presentation, I just want to acknowledge that the work that they do is truly a team effort. Nina and I, we joke, but I think it's a very serious joke that it's all about Team Cloverdale. And we really couldn't accomplish all that we do without the work of the Chamber and this amazing group of leaders sitting before you. So tonight, the Chamber team is going to walk us through a presentation providing an update on a number of their activities and their accomplishments over the last fiscal year. And last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit about just going forward, how we continue this teamwork and collaboration in the way of a proposal. The action tonight is really just to receive the presentation, but we'd also just like your direction on the proposed scope of work for the next 2 fiscal years. So with that said, I'll turn it over tonight to both Nina and Savannah. They've got a very informative presentation to share with us, and thank you for joining us tonight, Nina.
So let's do intros first.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you each to introduce yourselves to the council.
Hi, Molly AC. Angela Olson.
Amy Schaefer's.
Sarah Hagan. Betty Spring.
Thank you.
Hoping for some, maybe a man or two when we fill our vacancies. I know it's daunting, believe me. So thank you. Yeah, you can sit, yeah, unless you want to stand. If you can sit right there.
All right. I'm going to have you flip to the first slide. So first of all, I want to say thank you all for letting us present to you tonight. When putting together this PowerPoint, we tried to touch on some of the main things that the chamber does. There's so many, so it's so hard to put it into a PowerPoint. But just really touching on our events, our business outreach, our community outreach, and the things that we do to make Cloverdale somewhere where people want to visit and stay and live. Yeah. So with that said, we're going to kind of touch on the 2023-2024 accomplishments. And some of these are even 2022. It's been a while since we've been in front of City Council. So the last time we were here, there was some events that were just taking off that now have kind of been seasoned a few years. So.
And that's because we had a 2-year agreement.
Yeah, we had a
Because we
2-year.
don't want to be here.
Yes. So as David said, really the whole team Cloverdale and helping the city market, kind of being their marketing arm and promotion arm, so really promoting Cloverdale. One of the things that we do that we started a few years ago is a new resident bag. So anytime anybody moves to Cloverdale, we're provided a list, and in that bag we put all kinds of stuff. So evacuation stuff for the city of Cloverdale, so people know how to evacuate, the tags that go on their door when they evacuate in the event we ever have an emergency like that, and then business materials, so our shopping guide, our dining guide. Our local businesses are allowed to put in swag and coupons to kind of promote their businesses. It's also accompanied by a letter from the chamber, our community map, all kinds of things like that. So it's a really great way. You would think when you drop these off, it would only take a few minutes, but most of the time I end up high-centered for 45 minutes talking to people about why they moved to Cloverdale or what brought them here. So it's a really cool thing that we do, and it's a really nice way to welcome people into the city of Cloverdale.
It has universal appeal.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, you dropped a bag on my porch.
Yeah, a lot of times people stop by a couple months later and go, "Were you the person that put a bag on my porch?" So,
If they have ring.
yeah. So anyway, that's one of the many things we do. Next is our social media outreach. So as David mentioned, back in July of last year, we always had a social media presence. It was kind of done by our board at the time. We had a lady who was very into marketing and kind of spearheaded our social media. But last July, we really decided to kick it up a notch. So we hired a social media outreach person, which is Bree Bohannon, who's here behind me. And so it was nice to finally have feet on the ground at all of our events and community events to really showcase all the things that happen in Cloverdale. And since then, we're starting to develop a kind of promotional material that'll be rolling out here in early summer, which is Visit Cloverdale and Be Our Guest, which is going to be kind of our tourist or day tripper, like where you want to go and all the things that Cloverdale brings. And then we're going to focus our Cloverdale Chamber social media page on business outreach, so the things that businesses need to be focusing on. So there's going to be 2 pages, and we just felt like there's so much going on, it was hard to put it all into one page, and so we wanted to kind of divide it, like, do you want all the fun and cool stuff, or are you a business owner and need to know all the important information? So visit Cloverdale. If you aren't following already, you should be. We also engage on many community pages on Facebook, constantly posting stuff, both things that are going on as far as events and then other outreach stuff. Occasionally I post a lost dog. I mean, whatever happens. So that's yeah. So that's kind of our social media outreach campaign. Cloverdale Wine Walk. So I want to take a moment. This was an idea of our current president, who's Sarah, who's sitting in the audience tonight. This has to be, since I've been at the chamber, one of the biggest events that I feel like brings people here. So as you can see those stats in the top corner, 85 guests per wine walk is the average. 60% of the guests are from Cloverdale, but 20% of the guests are from outside of Cloverdale, but within Sonoma County. And then 20% of the guests are from outside of Sonoma County. So this has really started to pick up where we're seeing people come up from like Vallejo and Windsor and all those wonderful places with their girlfriends or with their friends to go wine tasting in Cloverdale. And what's wonderful about this event is all of the pouring locations, for the most part, are in our small indie businesses. So not only are people enjoying their day and walking around Cloverdale, they're also getting to see all the lovely businesses that we have in our downtown core. So it's bringing day trippers. It is a chamber event. It happens from October to May. So it was kind of a way our businesses were like, after Friday Night Live, sometimes business just like kind of slumps, and it's because there's not things to do. And despite the rain at times, people are out there wine walking. So that is the Cloverdale Wine Walk.
And I think the idea was to get people out of their homes.
Yeah.
Initially, it was to get local people out of their homes, but local people have friends and family from other areas, so it's a nice, very nice marriage.
Slide. All right, our community events. So these are the things that the community kind of knows us for, which is the Winter Festival, huge Christmas event, tree lighting, Lions Club are involved, several organizations are involved. It's kind of how we kick off the holiday season here in Cloverdale.
We can't do it without the city.
Yeah, that was a huge, our Public Works Department and all of the volunteers that we had this year. It's by far, I think, one, other than the 4th of July, it might be an even tie, one of those events where people look forward to it every year. It was raining this year. I didn't know what our turnout was going to be, and people were packed underneath those tents, and kids waiting for Santa Claus, decorating cookies, looking at the fire truck. So it's a very loved event here in Cloverdale. Moving kind of backtracking, we've got the 4th of July parade. This was something that we started doing, I think, right at the beginning of this 2-year funding agreement. And it was like, there is nothing going on in Cloverdale other than fireworks. So how do we get people downtown?
The perfect venue.
It's perfect venue. So this is going to be our 3rd parade this year. And it's just lovely to see the community involvement in that. A lot of sports organizations, businesses, because sometimes their businesses aren't open, so they actually get to participate in the parade and pass out swag. So it's just a great event. And then we also do downtown trick-or-treating, which is another one that is meant for the community, but also gets those people who aren't frequent flyers downtown walking around their downtown core, which is important. So it's kind of a double whammy. The kids get candy and the parents learn maybe about a business that they didn't know existed downtown. So those are our community events. Next slide. So business events. So we've quite a few business events. So starting with sidewalk sale, which it looks like one of the graphics might have cut off in the top, but the summer sidewalk sale is in August. It's a great way for our merchants to move inventory that is no longer serving them. It's also wonderful to see people with bags in downtown walking around and then grabbing lunch after. So great, another way to get people on the streets with bags in their hands.
It's usually in August, so the weather cooperates.
Yeah. Small business Saturday was something that we started this year where we encouraged people to post pictures in shopping establishments or dining establishments over Thanksgiving weekend, and the winner won a $150 gift card. So it was, shop and eat local this weekend, and you could be a winner, which was a great event as well to promote shopping and eating. And then other things that we do are the Longest Table, which is a community event happening on First Street. We shut the street down. The businesses in that area A lot of times we'll bring in vendors, and it is a very, very long table, hence the name. And we encourage people to come down and mingle with people in their community and get to know people. So you can bring lunch, you can buy lunch, you can decorate your table, and it's a way to kind of network within your community, but it also trickles over into our businesses as well. And then we also do ribbon cuttings.
When is the longest table?
April 28th is the next longest table. It's a Sunday, and it's from 12 to 2? 12 to 2. Yes. It's really fun. I really encourage City Council to attend, and I know we talked to Parker today. He's planning on attending with the police department, so that's wonderful. It's a great way to engage with your community and sit and share a meal and talk casually, and just a nice event. So going on to ribbon cuttings, anytime a business opens in Cloverdale, the chamber always tries to get them, one, to join the chamber, but also to get them a ribbon cutting, to get them some publicity.
Or an anniversary or whatever.
Anniversary or a
Sometimes
grand reopening. So that's something we do. And we normally have a lot of participation, a lot of excitement around new businesses or expansions. So that's always fun. Cloverdale Car and Motorcycle Show. We are coming up on our 30th anniversary in September. It's the longest event I think the chamber has running currently. 30 years, yeah. And it is huge. So this year we've got a lot in store. Same thing, traffic in our businesses. A lot of people from outside the area. We see people come in from Oregon, Idaho for this show. It's a really unique show because there's not many car shows where it's on the main drag of a town, which is really cool. So people aren't in a dirt lot and there's just food truck food. They're actually able to eat in restaurants, park their car in a beautiful setting. The backdrop is spectacular. Let me see if I missed any.
I think downtown Cloverdale lends itself very well to a car show.
Last one.
I think we did those.
I think that's all of them. All right, jumping kind of back into the different committees we sit on. Nina sits on the Homeless Advisory Committee with the city. We're a partner in Clover Ready, so we assisted a few years ago in the evacuation materials and then continuing to have those updated and distributed. We're a location where people frequently pick up that information. We just updated our shopping and dine and drink guide, which I need to get to you for your guys' website. So that's something people...
As soon as it comes out, it changes.
Yeah,
so we know
that's
that.
frequent. But updated it with all, and that lists every shopping and dining establishment in Cloverdale. And I mean literally from Taco Bell to the Beat on First Street. It does not, it's everything. So that's a really cool way to kind of understand what's here in your community. We do give out license plate covers and coasters from time to time. We have swag in our office. People stop by frequently. We just got done hosting our annual State of the City brunch, which is a city chamber, and this year it was the school district, which was kind of a really cool update for our business owners. So as a business owner, you can sign up to attend. It's a brunch. David gave a wonderful presentation along with Glenn from the school and myself, which kind of touches on all parts of our community, city, school, business. So that's a wonderful event.
It's a great opportunity for people to ask questions.
Yeah, and it's not an intimidating setting. It's just very casual and relaxing, and so it's people ask questions and get questions answered. Last but not least, we're in the process of upgrading our website. Websites, oh gosh, they're always changing. But kind of like I said about our social media, we're going to create a landing page within our website. So when people land on our website, they, as the person that's looking for information, can find it better. So immediately when you land on our website, it'll say business or community, and then it'll direct you into the area that you're going. Because a lot of times what happens is our website has so much information that people kind of get lost in the weeds, and they're either one or the other. They're a business or they're a community member. And so getting them funneled into the correct area will be really helpful. Yeah, quickly. So that is that. Do I have any questions on the presentation before I go into review of proposed scope of work? Okay, so this year we wanted to kind of bring this in front of City Council ahead of time because I know you guys are starting budget planning. So the Chamber's fiscal year budget is around 220. We're requesting $83,000 this year, so it's an increase from $75,000 in our last agreement with City Council, or with the City of Cloverdale. As you guys know, the cost of doing things has just went up. So all the things that we do, it's not really adding anything, it's more of just being able to continue to do the things that we're doing with the costs increase that everybody is seeing around us. In your packets, I believe David attached the more in-depth scope of work. So it's not just this, it breaks it down of all the different things that we do and what the city gets in return for that money. So yeah, you want to add anything?
No, I think we do a lot with a little.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Events are getting more and more expensive. Insurance is getting more and more expensive. You guys know
Rent
that.
is getting more and more expensive.
So trying to continue to give the city and our businesses and our community everything that they've continued to have and do it in a way that is affordable. So.
And that you love and want to be a part of.
So any questions, comments? Happy to answer anything.
First of all, I just want to thank you and let you know that your reputations are so far spread. I can't go anywhere without, at other chambers or other events without somebody mentioning the Cloverdale Car Show. And I don't know if that's, I talk to car people, I don't know what it is, but I was just in Willits for the Cal Cities Redwood Division meeting. Which is, where all of the cities in our division get together and have a discussion. And the people who were catering, of course, they're super involved in their chamber. And he just took one look at my name tag and said, Cloverdale, oh my gosh, we're doing a car show and you have the best car show. And you have the best car show because of the reason that you mentioned, which is it's in town, it's on a main street. There are businesses that the people who bring cars can use. They can have their friends come and meet, and it just is, it was basically an overnight success that only took 30 years. And but they were so complimentary, and I actually, sorry. So you will probably be getting a phone call because I gave the gentleman and his partner in crime, who were serving the best pulled pork, actually, at our dinner too. It's great that everybody's doing great pulled pork. Everybody's pulled pork is the best. Let's just face it. But they were giving their time because they felt like it was important for Willits Chamber to kind of showcase, what Willits has to offer. And they did it at the Mendocino Museum. We had a catered dinner at the Mendocino Museum, and he just was like, "Can I get the name and number of your chamber people?" So he has your number, and they will probably be contacting you and I think it's the highest compliment is they want to copy our event. It really is. I really can't go anywhere with somebody like not seeing my name back. And I know that you're not responsible for Friday Night Live, but you contribute so much to. You contribute so much to it. I can't go anywhere without getting a compliment on all of your hard work, and it's really recognized as being. It was one of the first in the area it was one of the first car shows really in the area, and it set itself apart because it was part of downtown. And it's just such a great place for people to come and bring their cars and meet their friends. And so there are other car shows, and now they're copying how we do our car show or how you do our car show. So I just want to recognize you and just say how much value there is in the events that you do, and just the small things, the big things. And when you have other communities copying what you're doing, you're definitely doing something right. So thank you for everything that you and your board and all your members do.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank all of you for all that you do for all of us living here also, because you make Cloverdale way more fun and interesting. And then I also have a question, and this may not be something that you do or not, but I was wondering if when Restaurant Week rolls around, we could somehow encourage some of our restaurants to participate.
Try to roll that rock up the hill every single year. And the Economic Development Board does that because they say that is it's a slow week, a slow period, but in Cloverdale with people keeping their their restaurants open and staffing them, it's difficult. It's very difficult. We try.
It's something we try, and we do reach out every year. A lot of our restaurants are family owned and operated, as you guys know. So to do the special sometimes just isn't in their wheelhouse, or they're not capable of doing it because of other reasons, or they don't want to. So it is something we try to do every year.
And there are some things that they do in order to be part of that program. They need to submit a menu. They need to do some things that are over and above what they typically do for marketing, even though it's like free advertising. I mean, to me, it's like, why wouldn't you do this? But it's ultimately up to them.
Thank you.
Working on it.
Thank you. I mean, I drive down to Hillsburg to participate, so.
It's a great program, yeah.
Well, you know, I just want to take a minute and say thank you to the whole chamber. Everything you do is just wonderful. I especially liked two events in particular, the car show. I just absolutely love it. And the second one is the parade on the 4th of July. What's the 4th of July without having a parade? You know, and it's good for the young kids. It reminds me of a 4th of July that Cindy and I spent with up in Oregon with Marjorie Pellegrini, who moved up there and opened a bed and breakfast. We went up and stayed with her over the 4th of July, and it was Hood River, I believe it was. And they had a 4th of July, and I'll never forget, the kids had their bicycles decorated, and they're going up the street to the park. And this one kid had a watermelon on his head as a helmet. And it was just so hometowny, you know, it really felt good. So I appreciate all the work you do. I look forward to my little pop-ins to say hello and find out what's going on. So, and particularly your community involvement, the trunk or treat, just everything you do for the entire community, not necessarily having to be a chamber member. So I thank you. Keep up the hard work, and I'm really supportive of the chamber. Thank you.
Thanks, Gus.
I just have one thing to say. I don't believe it's Savannah that you would get caught talking for 45 minutes. I don't see that happening. But anyway, it's a joy when I come in and sit in any of the meetings with you guys. The energy, the commitment, and the hometown pride is just crazy. And it shows in every one of these events. So Nina, Savannah, everybody, you guys do an awesome job. I mean, these things kick off without a hitch. They're fun to go to. This year, I was impressed with how we got, like the Public Works guys got in there. We turned that cleanup around in about 20 minutes at the end of Winter Festival. That's how it should be. So that's part of pride in the community. So hopefully that continues, but keep doing what you do, and you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
I want to start out by saying, Nina, thank you for being here. I'm so glad to see you out and about and feeling so well. So I'm happy to have you here. So excited. I'm not going to reiterate what everyone else is saying. You know, I've been in your office and in all these meetings with you guys, and you're phenomenal. I love supporting you. I love the support that you give to this community. But the number one thing you guys do is the personal touches. I mean, every single person on your board brings something personal to Cloverdale. You know, I call it the little hidden secret up here, and there's a reason for that. And it's the hometown pride. It's the small town atmosphere. It's the sense of community and the love for Cloverdale, and you guys all represent it, show it, and just it flows out of you with everything you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
And that's true.
Absolutely true. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't. 100%. Even Tess, and she's not here. Else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? No. Great. Thank you guys so much for this. We're just going to accept your presentation and move on to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to G, the consent calendar. All items under the consent calendar will be considered together by one action of the City Council unless any council member or a member of the public requests that an item be removed and considered separately. Anyone? No one in the audience? Okay. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor, second by Councilmember Walter.
Councilmember Bagby?
Aye.
Councilmember Morgenstern?
Aye.
Councilmember Walter?
Yeah, aye.
Vice Mayor Wheeler?
Aye.
Mayor Lands?
Aye. Passes 5-0. All right, moving on to new business. I-1, sign on to the Town of Windsor's letter of commitment for a regional biosolids facility.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The item before you tonight is a resolution that would authorize signing on to a letter that was drafted by the Town of Windsor indicating our commitment for a regional biosolids facility. I want to acknowledge the presence of our city engineer, Vanessa Apodaca. Vanessa has been representing the city of Cloverdale on a new organization that has been forming based on the leadership at the Town of Windsor, referred to as the Russian River Reuse Collaborative, or a name that we came up with, R3C. This is an effort to engage in more collaboration amongst local government, particularly focused in northern Sonoma County, in addressing both water and wastewater needs. And it's a reflection of what is needed to be successful in the federal and state grant space, is really collaborating on these larger projects, and in part that's based on the fact that many of the benefits of some of these projects have regional beneficial impacts. And so, collaborating and working together, we can solve some of our larger regional issues. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Apodaca to give us a little more detail on R3C and what's being asked of the council, and maybe more importantly, what's not being asked of the council.
Fair enough. Yes, thank you, David. I think you summed up the R3C pretty well. It's a regional collaboration with real focus on going after grant funds. Regional collaboration, regional projects are much more competitive in the funding realm. I do want to say that R3C is also open to Mendocino County and Ukiah. They just aren't participating yet. So it is a come one, come all kind of affair. I participate in the R3C as an in-kind contribution. I don't bill the city for my participation in R3C because it's kind of ties in with business development for my company as well, with good face time with other people, other agencies here in the vicinity. Through the R3C, Windsor has brought forth a biosolids treatment facility. Now, Windsor's going to move forward with this project no matter what. But in looking for grant funding and an effort to be collaborative, this is another one where they're opening the door, looking for interested agencies who may participate and bring their biosolids to this proposed facility. Cloverdale generates biosolids at our wastewater treatment plant, and every 3 to 4 years, those biosolids are collected, dewatered, and then trucked off. I can't remember where, but it's far away. And so Windsor's project is going to bring that local. It's intended to reduce greenhouse gases for all kinds of reasons, largely the kind of the effort in collecting these biosolids and trucking them off-site. We're also looking at new regulations for land application of biosolids. And so, the costs for this type of disposal are going to go way up. And so this is another thing that Windsor's trying to get ahead of by creating this facility so that we won't have to, incur these costs in the future. So what's in front of you is a letter of, what is it? It's a letter of intent, I believe. And so it does not commit Cloverdale in any way. I think that's what you were alluding to, David. There is no obligation for Cloverdale to participate, but it is kind of an early indicator, really as part of the grant application, that Cloverdale is interested. There are several other agencies that are also interested. And it's not in the letter, but Petaluma has also expressed an interest. They're outside of the watershed, but that just kind of speaks to the come one, come all of this regional collaboration. The idea with this facility is that it would take biosolids and process them into a Class A exceptional quality biochar, which is kind of a charcoaly, ashy material that can be used as a soil additive and fertilizer. And the quality of this product will be such that anybody can use it. I can show up with, my little bucket and bring it into my yard. There's not going to be any regulations around this product. And ideally, it will be as locally available as possible. Windsor does have a plan to contract with a company that will turn around and sell it, and Windsor would get some profits from that. But I think the hope is that first and foremost, this product would be made available regionally and locally to any interested parties. That's in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Vanessa, I just have a couple of questions, and I guess the first one, while I'm talking, you can think about, but I'm going to ask you to put on your time travel hat and go forward maybe 5 years or so. And I'm really curious to understand what the downside may be to Cloverdale and what the expense may be. I know now it's just a letter, an expression of interest, and I support that until it comes time to write a check out. Then I'd like to know exactly what we're buying and compare it to the service that we use now. So do you see any downside to this as we move forward?
Well, I did ask those questions, and the, coming back to me is that it's almost too good to be true.
Yep.
And so, certainly we have to look at that with a critical eye. So what's before you now is just signing on to this letter of intent, saying that Cloverdale is interested. In the future, the next steps would be a memorandum of agreement that would go to EPA. It's part of Windsor's, and so that would also come to City Council for consideration. But that would be a little bit more, cemented in that we are interested in participating. So this is just kind of a first touch. Windsor is totally ready to do the grant application, to administer the grant project. They're signed up to do all of it on behalf of all of the agencies because really it's going to get them the funding. And so I think Windsor's plan is to move forward with the facility no matter what. If other agencies are interested, they would seek additional grant funding to expand the facility to accommodate all the different agencies' planned biosolids. The costs, so in the future, if Cloverdale was to deliver our biosolids, it would really be minimal costs just for Windsor to operate that facility and process the biosolids. The only downside that I can see, and I'm not sure it's a downside, in order to get it over there, it would have to be dewatered. So anyways, the process, it takes the sludge, if you will, and it's full of water. It's very heavy, and you don't want to truck the stuff off wet. And when we do our projects here, the contractor brings a dewatering facility, and then they kind of dewater the stuff, and when it's got a lot less water in it, then it gets trucked off. And so we would have to consider how Cloverdale is going to address the dewatering.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa. I actually, just reading through the packet, you just were so thorough and answered so many questions, but I was interested to hear that it would be open to Mendocino and Ukiah as well. So the more partners, theoretically, the more partners there are, the more we can diffuse the expense. But I loved how you said, 'cause I can't remember where the biosolids go now too, but I know they go very far away and it's very, very expensive. And yeah, I think that this is really a win-win for Cloverdale, especially at this stage, because again, if Windsor is willing to foot the expense for the application. Yes, there isn't really a downside for us. And then, when it comes back, then we'll have to, decide how much we're willing to commit. But I like the idea of getting in on the ground floor of this because this is just something that doesn't go away. And I also know just how important it is for agencies to join together in the grant application process because there's just so much more of a likelihood of success. So I was glad to hear Petaluma is interested, and I would imagine that list is going to build because it's not going to go away for anybody who has to manage wastewater. But I love really excited about the collaboration having the potential to keep the cost of the wastewater down for our ratepayers, which I think we've heard really loud and clear they really support. And that's why I'm just I think there's no downside in this, and it's definitely the way that we need to go. So I'd just like to commend staff in Windsor and Cloverdale, and of course at West Yost for finding innovative ways for us to address these growing costs and to help to maintain our infrastructure. And it's really an example of how we have to take what we used to consider and take for granted a waste product and make it into a product that's actually usable and needed by our local ag businesses. I know that the Sonoma County Biochar Group, they were founded in 2012 because there was such a demand for taking this waste product, and agriculture was saying we need more locally produced enrichment material for our industry. So it's really a win-win. So thanks so much for bringing this to us. And I've got my fingers crossed and the more agencies that we get to apply with us, the more likely it'll be a successful outcome. So thanks for your work on this.
Thanks, Vanessa. I know we talked about this in the Public Works, and we were kind of on the too good to be true thing, but then we talked to we had Jay in there from the water plant, and I think he was saying, is it every 2 or 3 years we send out, and it's to the tune of about $150,000 or something like that. So I would hope that the too good to be true, if we can save Cloverdale $150,000 every 3 years, that's huge.
Sure.
And plus, I mean, I'm all about this biochar because I like the garden, so it'd be awesome. So thank you very much.
And we all know as we grow and population expands, we're just going to get more of this stuff. So it's an eye on the future for sure.
Questions? You already answered mine, so fingers crossed. I'll open it up to the public real quick. Is there any questions from anyone in the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back. Thank you. Do we need to do the full resolution on this one, right? I'm sorry. Let me pull it up real quick. It is a resolution. Anyone?
I recommend the resolution by title only. The resolution of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale authorizing signing onto the Town of Windsor's letter of commitment for a regional biosolids facility.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Bagby?
Aye.
Councilmember Morgenstern?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolter?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wheeler?
Aye.
Mayor Lance?
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. I2, consider a professional services agreement with West Yost and Associates Incorporated to provide engineering services for the design of new water storage tanks to replace the existing South Crest Reservoir.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'll introduce this item, and I may ask our city engineer to provide some feedback and ask maybe or respond to some of the technical questions a council may have. The action being requested tonight is a approval of a professional services agreement with West Yost to provide engineering services for the design of a new water storage tank to replace the South Crest Reservoir. We kind of interchangeably refer to the South Crest Reservoir as either the Cherry Creek tank or the Cherry Creek Reservoir or South Crest. It's one of our oldest tanks in our water system, having been constructed in 1966. It's got a number of operational issues, and this has been an ongoing capital improvement project for the city is to replace that tank. Currently, the existing tank has a storage capacity of about 200,000 gallons. We previously employed Moe Engineering to complete a feasibility study, which evaluated a range of alternatives. Following that analysis or that study, it was determined it was necessary to conduct a hydraulic evaluation, the purpose of which was to assess the impact of taking that water storage reservoir offline on the city's distribution system. We want to make sure if during construction it's necessary to temporarily either remove the tank completely or turn it off while the work is underway, that it doesn't unduly affect the operating pressures within the system or cause other health and safety concerns. The hydraulic evaluation determined that the tank can be essentially decommissioned or turned offline, though that hasn't been determined yet whether it's necessary. So we did our due diligence with respect to conducting the hydraulic evaluation, and that was presented to the Public Works and Facilities Subcommittee, and I believe it's in your packet, a fairly detailed engineering evaluation of our system. With that said, the next step in the process is to commence design for the replacement of the existing reservoir. Right now, staff is really leaning towards what we're referring to as the two-tank solution. The idea being we replace the existing tank with two new tanks. Whether we do that either together or we add one and subsequently remove the existing tank and then reconstruct a second tank, we're not sure, but that's something we want to be able to answer as part of this next design process. The intent with a two-tank solution would be to build in operational and safety redundancy in our system. As you know, with many of our reservoirs, we have two in place. That allows for and facilitates being able to take one offline while one's being addressed for the routine maintenance that's required on our reservoir systems. And so included in your packet is a proposed scope of work with West Yost. They have the necessary technical staff to prepare the design documents. The scope of work includes preparing what are referred to as design documents at the 30, 60, 90% level. That enables us to have early review of the proposed designs as they go forward, along with preliminary engineering estimates. Also included in the scope of work is the environmental compliance that may be necessary. So making sure that we comply with the California Environmental Quality Act. Some of the technical evaluation that would be done will certainly focus on the necessary geotechnical evaluation. We want to make sure that the site can accommodate the new tanks. Basically, what we're looking at is roughly doubling to not quite tripling, but maybe 250% of the existing capacity up to 500,000 gallons to meet what's currently a small deficit in our storage needs that is identified in our master plan. The proposal is really turnkey. It includes services to bring us through both bid and contract support, as well as engineering services that would be necessary and needed during construction. Often that comes at a later phase, and it can result in time impacts and negotiating that at a later date. So it's nice to have kind of an comprehensive all-in scope of work. The total scope is $668,000, including the optional and additional services, which is recommended by staff. Again, the action tonight that's requested by council is to adopt the resolution which would approve the agreement, authorize the city manager to sign the agreement, and begin the design process. I think technically, the scope of work, which is attachment 2 in your packet, gives you kind of the specific breakdown on a task-by-task basis, including an estimated time frame for the development of the 90% design documents. And if I'm correct, it's 9 to 12 months to complete that process, and that doesn't include the bidding and construction, which would ultimately be determined once a contractor is selected. So with that said, I'll kind of pause there and go back to council. If you have any questions, invite our city engineer up to ask, to be able to respond to any technical questions that the council may have about the proposal before you tonight. This was reviewed in detail by our Public Works and Facilities Subcommittee and recommended for the council's consideration. We believe that this is a high priority capital improvement project, would be incorporated in our work plan in the next 2-year budget cycle. And we view this again as one of those critical projects that we'd like to move forward as quickly as possible.
Thank you, David. Vanessa, do you mind coming up in case there's questions or comments? Because I'm sure there's going to be. Who wants to go first? Marjorie? Councilman Walter?
I'll go last. Okay.
Vanessa, once again, thanks. We went over this in the Public Works and brought it to the full council, but my big concern is, well, I guess it's not a concern, and I think I mentioned, is the 2-tank option. I know, and also bringing, the water staff in on this. We've got a lot of knowledge there, and you said they were involved in it, but I think it's a huge project, and I think 2 tanks would be a great advantage to Cloverdale to be able to take one offline, do the maintenance, and get a little more lifetime out of those tanks when we put them up there. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we've been talking about this project for a long time, and I think it's going to, I really like your updated plan with the 2-tank solution. I just think that, it helps us meet so many of our goals, and especially just kind of updating the design so that it reflects our current water use. I mean, that was it seems so obvious, and yet there we were kind of with an outdated plan. I really like the 2-tank solution for its redundancy and likely its lower costs. And I'm happy to see this move forward to the design phase with what appears to be a much better approach. And it's really in line with our current water use and in line with our goal of providing great service to our ratepayers. Again, it's just delivering more redundancy at a lower cost. And I just really thank you for your work on this. I think it also aligns with our other very important goal, is that our staff sleep better at night. I know that this is something that has been weighing on our water staff for a long time, and happiness is important. And our water staff not being worried about that tank, that goes a lot to our ability to be able to then take on other very important projects. So yeah, I really appreciate the approach. And I was reading through the packet, and right at the point where I was reading through the packet, I was looking at the memorandum. I was like, I really need a map here. I really need a map. And there they were. It was so clear. I got more map than I even wanted. It was very explicit, and I really kind of tried to dig in and look at which color corresponded to which, and where the tanks were and what it really meant. And it was so clear, and it was presented in a way that even a layperson could really understand it and understand how you accomplished what we were after in a much better method. So thanks so much for that. But maybe put the picture. My only complaint: put the pictures up front so I know that they're coming. So thanks again for all your hard work on this. It's a great. Looking forward to finally moving forward on something we wanted to do for a long time.
Thank you.
Just a couple things, and I know I expressed this at the subcommittee meeting. You know, we're planning on 500,000 gallon. You know, I'm in favor of if we can do 750,000. You know, the more we can get on that hill, the better, with it being safe, of course. You know, I have another concern, and that's the cost of everything. Do we have a ballpark number of what the two tanks would run to have everything done? I mean, we're talking 650,000 to have the study done, but how about the installation of the tanks?
Yes, so I did get that this morning, in accounting for a future year construction, consumer price index increases. We're probably about a $2.5 million project going up there. And that is specifically looking at 2 welded steel tanks. Now, I will suggest, just to counter your point there, a single concrete tank would be a bit less. But that doesn't quite offer the redundancy. Concrete tanks also don't necessarily need the maintenance that steel tanks need with the coating and cathodic protection and all that kind of stuff. And so, but understanding, you know, the 2-tank solution, I think, is preferred. I think we're hearing that through City Council and the operations staff. I recognize the redundancy, but there is, you know, there is still kind of some arm wrestling. I do want to say I'm all into grant funding. And so I did ask the team to include green infrastructure, low impact development facility design in here in an effort to make it potentially grant competitive. And so I do have high hopes that we can go after grant funding to build this thing.
Well, I mean, I'm in favor of moving forward. I think it's something we have to do. But David, you and I sort of spoke about this in the past, and it's the hit that the enterprise fund is going to be taking. You know, we have citizens that are concerned now about their water rates. And, you know, we always tell them that the water is free, it's down at the river, just go get it. You know, what you're paying for here is the infrastructure to get it to your house, to make it drinkable. You know, that's where your money goes. And with that being said, we have 6 acres, which is coming online here, I guess, pretty soon. We have South Cloverdale Water District that's going to be coming online. You know, and nobody on the state level or the county level wants to step up to the plate and write us a check for that. They expect us to do all that work. And that should technically go into the enterprise funds as well, and possibly even listing it as a capital improvement project. So, Vanessa, I guess a question to you is, you know, we have the rate increase index based on a percentage of capital improvement costs. Is this already calculated into that number, or are we going to go back to the rate payers and ask them for a bigger increase in the rates?
The capital improvement plan notes a total cost of $1.2 million. And so what's in front of you is going to exceed that quite a bit. And so I can't answer the question as to what that process looks like. I'm still going to hold out hope for grant funding in some level and try to keep those costs down.
Well, and it just brings forward the lack of the funding from the state and the county to bring in these other 2 water districts, because that's also going to hit the enterprise fund. So we just have to really fight to get some money out of the state and out of the county to do this. And I know next council meeting, we're going to be talking about 6 acres. And I'm hoping that there's some type of good news that the state and the county are going to pay a couple bucks. So that's all. I do want to move forward with the project, but there's some repercussions down the road that we're going to have to face. So thank you. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you for your work on this. I know it's not easy, and I know the numbers come in a lot larger as we go through time. My question is, now, since we had a budget of 1.27, now you're talking 2.5. Does that 2.5 include the 668,000, or is that on top of?
That is on top of it.
So we're triple our budget, basically.
To be fair,
is where
that
we're
is
going.
a really ballpark estimate. And,
Right.
you know, anytime you ask an engineer for a ballpark estimate, we go large.
You have to, because number one, you're protecting yourself, and number two, you don't want to come back and ask for more. I get it. We've done a lot of bonds and things, and it's just a triple hit on this one's really hard to swallow. So this is where David's job is going to get more difficult probably, because we're going to have to look at that list and say, here's what we can't do anymore, because we just spent it all on one project. So I know all this is necessary. Please pinch your pennies. Please find the grants. You do a wonderful job at it, and we all appreciate. So that's why we trust you and look to you to take care of us.
And we are mindful of that. In fact, the additional geotechnical evaluation that's embedded in this letter proposal is specifically for reducing construction costs. Anyways, just kind of looking at the technical memorandum that Mo Engineering did, we really think that we can come up with a little bit of a better solution for the foundation of the tank. And so we're certainly keeping that in mind.
And the last question I had, and then David, I see you want to make a comment, so great. Just one more quick question. On your list, you had the engineering services during construction as an option. Is that included in the 668 already? As
It is.
The option? Okay,
It
perfect.
is.
Thank you. David, did you want to make a comment?
Well, Mayor and council members, I certainly understand that you know, the cost of these improvements is a significant issue. That is something that we will certainly look in the context of the rate study and the capital spending plan that we anticipated. As our city engineer mentioned, you know, looking at opportunities for grant funding, I think will be critical. And lastly, I think there's also opportunity to look at, in consultation with the city attorney, whether impact fees could be used to contribute towards the cost. We do think this tank, while it's largely a maintenance project, there's opportunities to serve new development by adding capacity. So and as we're doing the design, looking at to what extent this could serve new development and set the kind of contribution from impact fees. So we'll be looking at that, and I just want to assure council that you know, we'll certainly be looking very closely at the finances for this project, and it could be something as we need to embark upon updating the water rate studies. The last one was adopted in 2021. It's good through, you know, it's really a 5-year look. So we'll, you know, the update of that study would then factor in, any new cost increases that might be considered for our CIP projects. And because we did get the grant, there may be for like well replacement and well rehab that may, you know, they're looking at shuffling some of the costs. So more to come on that, but understand council's direction to look very carefully at the costs and to do what we can to minimize the cost of this project.
Yeah, I think this is a lesson that we are privileged to get to learn again. Deferred maintenance costs more. This is a project that has needed to be done for years, and it's gotten pushed and pushed. It has to be done. And so now let's get the most bang out of our buck for it. And let's get some added benefits like the redundancy and some more efficiency, and maybe through the redundancy, maybe we'll be able to achieve some lower construction costs. But it's unfortunate that the original estimates have increased, but it's a lesson in that the city is having to learn yet again. You defer it, the price just goes up. So, and here we are, but it absolutely has to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I couldn't agree more. We have to move forward with the project. But when we do the rate study increase, the rate increase study, I would really like to see us factor in the 6 acres expenses that we're not being reimbursed for, and the potential of South Cloverdale Water District. And I know that's just going to be a guess, but we may as well put everything in the pile and say these are the capital improvements that we have to pay for. And if the citizens, have a problem with the new agencies, or water agencies coming into ours without paying, they can write Newsom a letter and they can write James Gore a letter. But, when we're mandated to do it, we have to do it, and then all of a sudden they don't want to pay. It really annoys me. So, thank you.
Vanessa, I just have one last little thing. Have you looked into larger tanks and the cost to see if it's that much of a fluctuation? Like, say we did 2 500,000 gallon tanks or 400,000 instead. I mean, if we're already paying 2.5, if it gets us to 3, it's worth it in my eyes to plan ahead even more.
Fair enough. And so, I guess there's the conversation, do we maximize the storage potential on the site as much as feasible? Or, and there's a balancing act.
It's going to be a cost of, we still
Sure.
have to be able to afford it. However, now's the time if we're in it and not shortchange ourselves for 15 years down the road.
Sure. And so the basis of design report is roughly equivalent to like a 30% design. And so that's at the point where that would get ferreted out. And, in close collaboration with city staff and operations staff, really the bulk of the costs are just to mobilize and get up there. It's incremental to increase storage. And so ideally, yes, I'm all for maximizing the storage potential up there to carry us many years into the future.
Thank you so much. Any other comments from here?
No, if I could, I just want to apologize if I sounded like I'm ranting and raving, but I am. So, no negatives towards staff or your services, Vanessa. It's just annoying. So.
It's not taken that way, Gus. It's all
Okay.
good.
I'll open it up to the public. Seeing none, bring it back. Anyone want to make a motion?
Move to approve resolution, read by title only, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale approving a professional services agreement with West Yost Associates to provide engineering services for the design of new water storage tanks to replace the existing South Crest Reservoir.
Second?
Thank you. Councilmember Bagby?
Aye.
Councilmember Morgenstern?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolter?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wheeler?
Aye.
Mayor Lands?
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. And the legislative reports, letters of support and or opposition. J1, the IPAOM funding request.
Thank you, Mayor. The letter in the packet is for your reference only. It was previously approved by council. This is in regards to our funding requests for being able to provide public access and operation and maintenance for our recent open space acquisition, Soda Springs Ranch. This letter has been provided both to LAFCO as well as our representative, the 4th District Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Gore, and be engaging with open space staff on whether they have any questions, and we hope that they will expedite their review of this letter and provide feedback on our request.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. Moving into city manager report.
Just a couple of items to report on. There was a brief in last week's Cloverdale newsletter indicating that our public works team, under our leadership of our director, Director Montani, we installed new stop signs at the intersection of West 2nd Street and Commercial Street. The stop lettering is on order. We did so much striping this year. We use it also as soon as the striping is in and it dries out a little bit. I know our public works staff will get the stop lettering installed, but there is temporary signage. We've done flagging to draw attention to those new stop signs, and that was again approved by council. Recently, with the rains, we started to see an issue with the flashing pedestrian indicators at the intersection of the Boulevard and Healdsburg Avenue. It was determined that there's a bad connector or board, I guess as you'd call it, within the computer system that's been ordered, and we'll be trying to get that replaced as soon as possible. Council has also indicated the interest in getting an update on the Alexander Valley Healthcare Project. We received an update today from the architect that they are conducting interviews of general contractors, and that ultimately it's going before their board of directors to make a determination on next steps. So we're tracking that to see their desire to move forward. I know it's a critically important project for the community, and we'll continue to track and report out on that. But end of report in terms of city manager updates.
Thank you, sir. City Attorney?
Good evening, Council. Just wanted to make one update for you. You know, we just had the primary election a couple weeks ago, and soon enough it will be the November election season. And wanted to make sure the Council is aware of a new law that went into effect in 2023 that creates some conflict of interest rules regarding campaign contributions. The quick summary is, if someone gives you a campaign contribution that totals $250 within the previous 12 months, you are prohibited from participating in any decision involving that entity. So someone gives you a campaign contribution, they come before you with a contract for approval, or a project entitlement, a land use permit, you would be prohibited from. And there's a lot of different rules associated with that. There's some safe harbor rules, and there's some rules about sort of, you can't use a third party to donate, that would count. But so I'll follow up with the Council with a memo summarizing some of these. Just wanted to make sure that was on your radar as the campaign season heats up.
Alex, just one quick question. How long does a council member have to recuse themselves from that contribution?
Yeah, so it's for, if you've received campaign contributions totaling $250 over the last 12 months. So if you received a campaign contribution 3 years ago, that doesn't have an impact. There's also a prohibition on accepting a campaign contribution when someone has business pending before you. So if it's on the agenda, you can't accept it.
Seeing none, we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Our subcommittee agendas and minutes and media are all available on our website at www.cloverdale.net/agenda center. Council member reports. Anything you want to report on?
I just have one real quick, and I think I've brought it up to a few people, but the benches we put down there on the Do More benches that have the spot for the plaque, I went and solicited the Lions a little bit. They had decided that it was a great idea, and they fully funded a plaque for Mr. Norm Pardini. So that is in the process of being made. We've been in contact with his wife, Linda. She is going to, when it comes in, we're going to have a little presentation. The Lions and city staff and stuff come down and have a little photo op and put that on there. So it was a good stroke of business with her, and it also kind of, like I was hoping, drove a little competition. And we've got the Lions also have a few guys in mind now, so I see that ramping up here in the near future. And these guys will fill those benches up with some plaques, so it'll look really good down there.
All right, we'll move on to future agenda items. Anyone?
I just wanted to say regarding our mobile home park discussion that we're going to have in the upcoming meeting, I don't think we're ready yet for our ordinance because I just feel like we have more things to decide, more information coming in, and I just feel like I personally would rather we didn't have an ordinance and that we didn't waste the city attorney's time refining an ordinance before that discussion happens.
So I would like to ask for the RV parking ordinance to come, but what I'd like to do is send it straight to a subcommittee if it was all right with everyone. I see a lot of nodding heads, so maybe we can send that to the Finance Admin and Police Subcommittee, and we can research it and discuss it.
Mayor, as far as the direction on the mobile home rent control ordinance?
On the, it's on the RV parking?
No, I got that one for the one that Councilmember Morgenstern provided her recommendation.
So she was kind of given an idea towards an upcoming agenda item on that one. The mobile home park rent control ordinance is on our agenda in
Right.
one of the next future meetings.
Want to make sure that our city attorney knew which direction to go in.
So I didn't hear any direction from the
There is no direction. It is more of a call it maybe a report or a concern. That way it's clear. Perfect. Anything else?
I think it's a request for the full council to weigh in on it before anything is brought back.
Correct. Correct, yes, sir.
Well, that needs to be done in a public meeting, isn't that correct?
That's why I wanted to kind of refine what we were calling it.
I think that, I mean, personally, I'd like to see it come forward with as much information as possible so we can have an open and honest discussion. You know, that when I'm out in the community, this is something that I get asked about regularly, like when is this going to come? We need to have a discussion about this. This is an important issue. It affects my sister, my cousin, my friend, and it's not only, you know, in Cloverdale. This is an issue that is really coming to a head all over California. And the reason is there are so many external economic pressures because these properties are often changing hands, because the property owners are aging out. And it's a very timely topic that multiple cities in Sonoma County and California are having. It's a topic that we're having an extensive conversation about at Cal Cities at our policy committee. So I'd like to see it come before us as soon as it's baked and ready from our city attorney.
And I'd like to kind of, thank you. I want to stop the discussion now so it doesn't turn into an item that's not on our agenda at this point. So it is at the subcommittee level, it is going through discussions, and whatever the subcommittee brings forward is what we bring forward, and we appreciate the comment.
And Mayor, just to outline what the direction from the subcommittee was to bring forward a draft ordinance for council review. So based on the direction from the subcommittee to staff, our plan is to bring it forward, you know, unless you direct otherwise. What I'm hearing tonight is to bring it forward. We are expecting to bring it forward at your April 10th meeting, and council will have the opportunity, once it's introduced, to make amendments, make changes, have further discussion. If the draft ordinance as presented it needs tweaks, there will be that opportunity. So, you know, it doesn't mean it's approved once you bring it forward. It's a two-step process: introduction, second reading, and the first reading will be opportunity for all the council to weigh in on the policy components that the subcommittee directed us to include in the draft ordinance.
And our bylaws call for a two-touch process, right?
That's correct.
Manager, yeah.
Seeing nothing else, meeting adjourned at 7:48. Thank you.